Right, good morning, everybody. Morena, welcome to this hearing of submissions on the transfer of elderly persons housing. I am Jane Robertson. I am Democracy Services person, and because there is no chair of the hearing panel yet, my duty is to invite our elected members to resolve who will chair the hearing.
I'd like to move that Myles Cox chairs our hearing.
And I second that. Thank you.
Okay, so I shall pass the hearing over to Myles. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Good morning, everyone. This hearing panel was established at the council meeting on the 2nd of May 2024 and is empowered to hear submissions and make recommendations on the proposed removal of all elderly housing units from the schedule of assets and proposed transfer of the elderly housing portfolio to the Queenstown Lakes Community Housing Trust. We don't have any apologies, but I do like to point that the hearing has been recorded. Any declarations of interest? Conflict of interest, right?
Yes, both Councillor Guy and myself sit on the Queenstown Lakes Community Housing Trust as representatives of the council.
Okay.
Yes, confirming Councillor Wong's statement of our interests as liaison on the Housing Trust. However, also note that we're not trustees of the trust and we have no financial interest in the outcomes of this hearing.
Okay, so based on that, no, not trustees and not no financial interest, the position is that you are okay to still on the hearing. Confirmation of agenda, so move that the order of agenda be approved. The agenda be confirmed without additional predation.
I'll know that. Thanks, man.
And I'll second it. Thank you.
Well, pay that, Gary. Hearing of submission. Just invite the reporting officer to speak to the board.
Yeah, hi, I'm Paul Carter, Property Projects Manager within the property team at Council. Yeah, we've received a total of 13 submissions, all in support of the proposed removal of the assets from the schedule of assets and proposed transfer to the trust. Just like to point out, and just raise this with Jane just before, there was a omission in the text in the recommendations, and that's number 2 and 4 should probably include wording something along the lines of and proposed transfer of the elderly housing portfolio to the Queenstown Lakes Community Housing Trust. Both of those statements, for some reason, that got missed out in the preparation of the document.
So that's basically as I just read out in that paragraph at the beginning.
Correct.
We had and proposed transfer of the elderly housing portfolio to the Queenstown Lakes Community Housing Trust. You're saying do that at 2 and 4. Right.
Out of those 13 responses, all of them are in support, as we kind of said, and one person has requested to be heard today, which is Julie Scott.
Any questions?
Yes, please, Paul. I'd just like to confirm that we're talking about the land parcel that's specifically under the units. I'm aware that Baskets of Blessings in communication with council regarding the other area of endowment land behind the church. So we're specifically talking about the parcel of land with the units and nothing beyond that. Is that right? Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Paul. Thank you. There was one submitter who suggested that the transfer price should be somewhere closer to market rate.
Yes.
Just wondering if you could speak to that, so that we can understand how that was considered and where we came to with the recommendation.
Well, I mean, that's like kind of, you know, something that's been proposed by this person. And I guess that's up to, you know, councillors to determine the methodology of how we recoup cost or kind of do that direct transfer to the trust. So that's their suggestion. I mean, we can talk about that today for sure. I mean, that was the only submitter that has suggested that. It's not been indicated before in any of the previous papers that were brought before council.
Anything else?
No.
Yeah, just following on from that then, so just to get clear, we are, based on depends how we're at the end of the hearing, what we've proposed, so you're indicating that the details of the transfer will be established at a later date. We're not actually specifying, you know, a lease or the sale or the price, are we?
No, we've suggested that in the previous full council document. And then I think in the follow-up, once we, you know, if it gets approved to kind of take this to full council for approval, then that's when we'd like kind of bring forward, you know, suggestions of, you know, the transfer.
Okay, right, understood. All right, any other questions? No?
Nope.
Right, I'd like to call the Judy Scott from Queenstown Community Housing Trust, hear your submission. Thank you.
Good morning. Thank you for having me here this morning. I just thought I'd give a bit of an update on where we're at with things and also comment on that particular submission around a different manner of transfer to the trust. So firstly, you know, we have now an increasing number of seniors coming onto our waiting list. And I think that's due for a couple of reasons. One, because that demographic is growing as they reach 65, having lived and worked in the district for many years, and now in a position where often their only income is the superannuation and they don't have any assets. So actually it links into that submission and a comment within that submission around this person believes that people should work for what they get, and if they can't afford to live in Queenstown or Wanaka, then they should go somewhere more affordable. It's a very narrow-minded statement. A lot of these people have lived and worked in the district their entire lives, contributed to the community, and are now in a position where, because they cannot work anymore, and the rental prices are so expensive here, property prices are so expensive here, that are in this position. So, you know, that just to me is a very short-sighted position from that submitter. But the other reason why that waiting list is increasing with seniors is because there has been a bit of noise and momentum going on around what we're doing in this space. So Tiwa Banks, we've got 6 one-bedroom properties in Arrowtown there that have been designated for senior housing under public housing. And then obviously we've purchased a piece of land next to the Wanaka senior cottages, so 45 McDougall Street, I think it is. We've got that ready to go. We'll be working on the development plans master plan as soon as we get the confirmation of this transfer put through. So that has stimulated a lot of people coming onto the waiting list because they can see there's a tangible outcome ahead for them. There's a real light at the end of the tunnel. So previously, a lot of people would hear feedback that there's no point going on to the waiting list because they don't think there's any housing available for seniors, whereas now they can see that there is actually something in the pipeline. And so they're coming out of the woodwork, so to speak. I mean, also seniors often will find that they don't have great technology skills. So for a lot of them, going through the process of expressing their interest online via our website is challenging. So that's another reason why they had been slow previously to come forward. But look, we, you know, it's increasing all the time, the number of households on the waiting list. We see seniors in that whole senior housing portfolio as an important part of our portfolio. It's an important role for the trust to play in that we offer a range of housing programs for all those people who contribute to our community, and seniors do play a really important role. They have in the past, they represent a lot of our history, and I certainly don't believe that we should be kicking them out of the district simply because they can no longer afford to live here. So happy to take any other questions.
Okay, thank you. Lisa, good.
Thanks, Julie. I know that so many of the submissions are in support, all of them are in support, but particularly highlighting the support services that the trust brings to enable more of a scaffold of framework of support around our residents. And I get a lot of comment read the unit sitting vacant at Arrowtown. Does this expedite this? Has this been part of the challenge around occupying that unit and us moving on this today? Does that close that off and enable us to get a tenant in there ASAP?
Yes, absolutely. I think what happened is previously APL property used to manage the all of the units on behalf of council, and when it came in-house to council, whilst the property team has done a really good job of bringing those homes up to healthy home standards and managing the tenants in there, it's, you know, you'd be the first to agree that it's not their wheelhouse in terms of those their wraparound support services. That's what we do. We're qualified, we're regulated under central government. So transferring those assets to us will enable us to deliver that. And we have already a tenant lined up ready for one particular unit in Arrowtown. We're just working with the property team to get that unit ready for the tenant, and then we'll have someone in there. So yeah.
Thanks, Julie.
Okay. Any questions? Okay, no, I haven't got any questions there. That was very good. Thanks very much, Julie.
Thank you.
Okay, we'll move on to deliberation. We've got the all the other submissions were read here. As you say, they're all in support. We've talked about the submitters' comment about how the transfer and any fees for the transfer will be handled after we've made a decision here. I support the proposal based on the submissions and what we've heard and what we understand. I think it's a good step forward for our community, and the Housing Trust is definitely the right organisation to be, I believe, custodian and managing this type of housing. That's my thoughts. You got anything, Lisa?
Yes, thanks, Lau. I agree. I support it. Personally, there's been a lot of frustration around that one particular unit and us being able to tenant it on the understanding that many of our residents do need a bit more support and being in this style of accommodation. So I'm really pleased to see this come to the table and hope that by sorting out the regulatory requirements behind it, that this really sensible move can happen as quickly as possible. So yes, I'm in support of it.
Yeah. Yeah, and I concur with the comments that have been made already, and reading the submissions that have come through, it's overwhelming, the support for the Queenstown Lakes Community Housing Trust. They do a great job, and those comments have certainly backed that up, and I think they're in the best position to be able to manage this portfolio going forward. So fully support this.
Okay. Well, I will move that and note the contents of the report. Note the submissions and objections received on the proposed removal of the elderly housing units from the Queenstown Lakes District Council's schedules of assets and proposed transfer of the elderly housing portfolio to the Queenstown Lakes Community Housing Trust. Confirm that to the extent to which the submissions are accepted. So that part of the resolution is basically we are accepting the submissions. Or do we want to partly accept one of the submissions? Because we're not accepting all comments made in that submission.
No.
How do we do that?
Okay, accept the submissions in support and reject the submission proposing fees for transfer.
Okay. And then recommend to council the position of the hearing panel to remove the elderly housing units from the schedule of assets and transfer the elderly housing portfolio to the Queenstown Lakes Community Housing Trust.
Yep.
So I've moved that. Someone second, Lisa second, any further discussion? Any discussion? Matt, you got all that? You happy with all the wording? You got it?
Yep,
Okay, all in favour? Aye. Okay. Motion's carried. That's the conclusion of the hearing, meeting.